rooting for, not that we have any favourites, but rooting for our mate Ed, kind of a 217. Red and white MG on the outside the front row. He said, as long as somebody gets a picture of me on the front row of the grid at Goodwood, I don't care what happens. Obviously, he will be very nervous and really hoping for a good race, and he is very competitive. Here's how they start. Pole position on the right-hand side, as the drivers see it. That's Rob Huff, car number 7, red and white. Yellow car of Mark Cole in the centre, and then Ed Foster, red and white 217 with GT on the door. He'll be in 3rd. Nick Mayton and Matt Walton start 4th and 5th. Nick Mayton in the British Racing green, Old English white for Matt Walton. All cars in this race, MGBs. Josh Barnett, Chris Ryan and Jason Minshaw in the pale blue car with the stripes. He is in 8th place. Then Malcolm Gammons of the bright blue MG. Max Cawthorne and Paul Wilmer, one of many red and white machines. Looking further back behind them, Mark Ashworth, Gordon Russell, and then David Russell Wilkes in the black car, Simon Milner and Chris Helliwell in one of the sea of red and white cars that are sort of just outside the top dozen. The grey car with the black roof, number 200, that's John Allen from Jeremy Cottingham, David Eales and Christoph Cowens, Simon Drabble, Paul Latimer. Easy to spot Tony Wilson-Pratt. The WSM Coupe, it's an MGB but with a difference. It's the only one that hasn't got the traditional standard production nose. It's got a long nose, the WSM Coupe, built in 1963. And the field rounded out by the green car with the orange stripe. And that is Richard Locke, who qualified in 30th place. So 30 cars, 25 minutes. 3 will come to the line to get a garland, a cigar, and an interview with Ed Foster. Or David Green, much more likely. So he could interview himself. We actually talked through that scenario this morning on the breakfast show. Hello, Ed. Oh, hello. Great race. It was, wasn't it? You did really well, didn't you? I did, didn't I?
No, I think they'd have gone in with, pitched in with beautiful lines, Ed, and he would have agreed. But I tell you what, we joked about this on Friday before he went out to practice. He said, what happens if you finish in the top 3?
Switch it on.
Just heard Ed giving himself a pep talk. Switch it on, switch it on. You're doing it for us as well as for you, Ed. Do switch it on. Get a perfect start and then you can go for it.
No. At this stage, you think about nobody but yourself. Nothing but how you're going to start the car. And he's not even really thinking about the fact that he's mic'd up now or that there's a camera in the car. It's just, okay, come on, don't mess this up. Make a good start. Yeah, he knows how to start the car, he knows what revs he needs, he knows where the biting point of the clutch is. They had an adjustment on the clutch. He figured out their telemetry told him he was losing time because his gear changes were slow, and that was because the pedal was going all the way to the floor and then coming all the way back up, whereas everybody else has a little peg underneath, a bolt underneath to stop the clutch travel when it's released. In qualifying, it wasn't releasing all the way, and so he was having to really wrench the gears through. They've adjusted that. It should be a much snappier gear shift. But he's got a World Touring Car champion on pole, Rob Huff, who started his career in MGBs and raced them for 20 years. He's got Mark Cole in the centre, who's been racing that yellow MG for probably the better part of a decade. Ed Foster on the outside of the front row of the grid, and 27 others behind who all want to win the Lavant Cup. 5-second board has been given. They're watching the flag man. The arm drops. Away they go, and a horrible start for Ed Foster. Didn't get the car in gear, did not get away. So the pale blue car coming through, that's Josh Barnett, and trouble behind.
Adjustment behind car number 29 was given a thump up the back there, not his
Green
fault.
highlights of Max Cawthorne, spun around, and there's carnage everywhere. So we have lost a couple of cars already.
Well, it was the adjustment because of Ed getting away so slowly. Everybody behind had to take to evasive action. But
car on the grass on the inside, somebody else smoking. That's the white car of Matt Walton with the black roof. He's smoking for contact. The WSM Coupe goes by. That's car 97.
Oh, that's really, really unfortunate. Car number 15 is the first one we see parked beside the road. I'm sure recipient of that was William Tevitt. We also saw the Cawthorne car. Ed is still going in about 10th place, but I'm sure number 75 is going to...
Oh, and another big spin. Somebody's lost a wheel. No, well, they've lost something. There was something in the track.
Car 49, which is red and white. Well, that goes without saying, and that's Simon Milner who's had the problem down there. So what an incredible first half lap. And
yellow flags are out. We may possibly start the race with a safety car, and it is, well, Rob Huff has cleared off. You saw Mark Cole in second place. Ed Foster started third, but has dropped down after that awful getaway. Exactly what he was trying to talk himself out of. Let's take a look at the start. Well, there's Ed going very slowly. Cars swarming around. There was contact. The car with the green highlights, that's 29. Max Cawthorne made contact with the car of Matt Walton.
Well, that was fighting over about 8th place. At that point, Ed had fallen down from not going anywhere from 3rd to about 12th, and just as they closed around him on either side, and then more contact further back where the number 75 took a battering. That was Matt Walton.
Down to about 20th by that stage as they got into gear. He didn't have the car in gear. It just did not go. Either that or he was in 3rd. And there's contact beside him, contact in front of him as well. That's where the two cars made contact in front of him. They sort of swerved around him, then came back together.
Well, I think number 75 might have been tipped up the rear. That's what tipped it across and then hit, was it 29?
He clattered into Max Cawthorne, the car with the green highlights. And then, and then when you've got 4 or 5 cars breaking loose. In fact, Rob Huff didn't get away well.
No,
Look at Huff on the left-hand side.
So Cole is leading.
He hadn't cleared off. Cole's leading. Rob Huff made almost as bad a start as Ed Foster.
Well, let's just run down who is exactly where. So Mark Cole leading the race by 2.7 seconds. The safety car is out. And again, this rear shot, looking at the replay, you can just see how the field is doing quite well to pass. And then suddenly you see a white MGB with a black roof being pitched across the field, and everybody else taking to the grass on the left, on the right, locking up, and then another tail ender up at the back of the pack.
Yeah, either Josh Barnett or Jason Minshaw's blue car was involved in that as well. Not sure which.
Not Minshaw, because he's in second place at the moment, and then
so he
Nick
made
Payton
a great start.
in third.
Blimey, Jason Minshaw up from 8th place. Well, lots of the products of the Prince of Darkness on the track there. Lucas supplying the lights for so many British cars of the 50s and 60s. And look at the tyre marks it's left. A real.
Well, Rob Huff has come into the pits. So our pole man into the pits, 75 we can see there. That's getting the bodywork pulled away from the front wheel.
Rob Huff got away well. I think when he grabbed second gear, that's when the problem started, because as we saw the field go away, he was absolutely level with Mark Cole, and then suddenly he was dropping right back into the pack.
Also in the pit, another one with damage. We saw Neil Cawthorne getting a bit of a thump there, not his fault. And car number 8 in the pits as well. That's Rupert Wood. And finally, car number 15 has not made it around, and that's William Tebbett. So you don't really expect much carnage in an MGB race, but alas, it was a real case of things going wrong right from the outset.
Problem is, with 30 cars that are identical, that's where well, there's the Brown and Gammon's car, that's Rob Huff's car. So it has clearly just gone. We heard. No. Something very clattery down there. That is not sounding good.
Sounds like it's swallowed an alarm clock.
Well, that's the end of the race, I'm afraid, for Rob Huff. Anything they try and do now, I think, is just going to be further damage to the car. So the marshals once more getting into action, and never pass up an opportunity to thank them all for their volunteer service. Red flag is out.
Okay, so all of that needs to be cleared up. And just for point of reference, to see whether he goes forward or back in the second part of the race, Ed Foster came round in 8th place after that.
But you know what? I mean,
remarkably good.
I was watching his car in the slow-mo at the start, and he was just buried by everybody. But then there were more incidents ahead, and that has reshuffled the field. So the red flags are out. The cars will come back to the grid, and we will then look at how quickly we can get a restart. Didn't seem to be tyre barrier damage, so it's how quickly we can A, move the cars that are stranded, and then B, reposition the rescue vehicles, because like the tyre barriers, you need the vehicles to be back on station in case it all goes off again.
Right, because we've gone back to, with the red flag, the clock has gone back to 0. We will have a new start to this race. We'll let you know how long the race will be when we get signal for that. So, well, we'll see how they line up the grid if they have.
Well, no, if it is a fresh start and the clock's gone back to 0,
it should go back to the front row of the grid.
He should be back on the front row of the grid, and there will be nobody on pole. Well, don't let lightning strike twice.
Now, standing outside on this glorious day, there is a bit of a cooler breeze coming in, but certainly on board these cars, it's very hot. So Mark Cole bringing his car around with the door open, and the next car as well. That's the Minshaw car. just trying to get things cooled down. They don't know how long they're going to be stationary on the grid as well. That is another factor. Yes, the flags are blowing up above the pit lane, but they're sitting rather higher than the cars, so they are in the line of the wind.
And although there's plenty of cloud in the sky, it is relatively light and fluffy, lots of blue sky as well, so it's not the leaden skies that we saw on Friday evening that brought a couple of little sprinkles of rain. We should be okay for the weather, and as long I've got my vest on this morning, so I'm nice, or this afternoon I'm nice and warm. So yes, a sea of red and white, Abingdon's finest.
Thank good for others like the black car of David Russell Wilkes. It's a big help to us. He's in the top 9 just behind Ed. He's in 8th place.
Well, again, Ed Foster's car raced in red and white, and that's the spec that it was rebuilt to. But in perhaps its biggest race, the Nürburgring 1,000 kilometres, can you imagine what was racing in 65? It would have been, Porsche, not quite Porsche 917s at that stage, but, he would have been in 1,000 kilometres with the likes of the Lola T70s and the sorts of things we're seeing in the Sussex Cup next. There
would have been Porsche, because it was a 67, I think it raced in the 1,000K. Certainly there would have been Porsches, but the array from the fastest car down to the slowest would have been really mind-warping.
The poor old thing. And in that race, it raced in black. Now, Ed would love to race it in black with wire wheels, but wire wheels are heavier, so the preparation team went no, and wire wheel hubs, knock-on hubs, are heavier, so they went no again. And then black paint, apparently, is heavier, so they went no to that as well. So there's the car of Rob Huff in the pit lane, the number 7 Brown & Gammon's engineered car, unfortunately going no further. And Rob and his father Peter spent a lot of time in Rob's early years racing the MGB, and then Rob kept racing it for at least another decade. So I think he was saying he actually stopped racing it about 9 or 10 years ago. Well, David Green's down in the pit lane. Rob Huff is there with not much else to do now, unless they can fix the car. Let's hear from him.
Rob, you look like you're undoing your belt. Is it all over?
Sorry. Yeah, just about to get out of the car. Unfortunately, it seems I got quite a good start. Not too bad for the first start in an MGB in 15 years. But grabbed second gear, got good drive in second, and then about halfway through second, it's like dropped a valve or done something, which is a real shame. I was really looking forward to this race.
It's a shame because obviously you were in pole position. It was worth having a go at the car. We may have a red flag. I don't know what that's going to do to the restart, but does it look like it's game over for the day?
Yeah, very much so. I think the guys have just checked it over. I want to say a huge thanks to Gammons for inviting me, to Ron for inviting me to drive the car this weekend, and for Malcolm and the guys for the preparation. But unfortunately, today's not our day.
Well, if it was any good news, I'm not sure if you're aware, because you ran straight from the last race straight to assembly area, but the maybe silver lining is you were second in the TT.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, fantastic. I didn't. On the pit board, we got P5, and then I was P4, and then I got P5. So I assumed something had happened. But that's brilliant, fantastic.
You're pushing really hard in that second stint, and you probably didn't think you were at the podium, but it's paid off in the end.
I could see the leaders, and there was one of the Corvettes, I think, dropped a load of oil. I went off and lost about 4 or 5 seconds just as I was catching the leaders. It was going to be tough, but it would have been nice to be involved in the battle. But yeah, I will very much say second in the TT any day. Thanks to Richard Mines and Valley Motorsport for preparing a great car, and yeah, I'm very pleased with that.
Well, commiserations for this race, but go and get your garland and cigar for the TT and enjoy the night.
Good this afternoon.
Well, you can't win them all, and a podium in the Royal Automobile Club Tourist Trophy celebration, he'll be happy with that. A shame for the Brown & Gammon's team, though, so no cigar for this one. But if we do go for the full restart, then the man most likely to will be in the centre of the front row, the yellow car, Mark Cole. Mark Cole has only raced this MG once before. Normally he races a Lotus 11, so not a professional driver like Rob, but experienced and quick. This car, the yellow machine, prepared by Ron Quinn, whose Quintec operation have also prepared cars up to Le Mans standards.
That said, of course, it was 20 years ago that Mark Cole was British Porsche champion, so he's a driver who's been chipping away for a long time and plenty of experience. So right, back in original grid position, missing the original pole starter Rob Huff. We've just heard from him. Number 15 car being winched, flat-bedded away. That was poor William Tebbett, who got caught up sort of halfway down the pack. And it does mean Ed Foster is on the outside of the front row again. I think we're missing one of the second row as well, which it's Mark Walton. Sorry, 75. Of course it is.
It was Matt Walton. Yeah, it was Matt Walton, because he got properly thumped. That was the car that had that loose or wheel rubbing. Or waiting to pound, says David.
Ed, well, you seem to get a good getaway on the green flag lap, not so much on the real start.
Oh, I thought I had it in first. I always go with foot in the clutch, second, first. It was in, I had my eyes up, and I went, and I just didn't go anywhere. Well, I didn't go. So then a huge panic, because usually that's when you get collected by the rest of the 26 cars behind you. So, yeah, that was an absolute shocker. And then there was obviously the incident down here. I got past a few cars, and then going into the first part of St Mary's, someone spun off and nearly came back into me, so I got past them. So it was, do you know what, it was a pretty chilled, great first lap.
Well, you did avoid the carnage, and at least I have to say it's been reset for the grid, so you can put that down to a practice lap and try again.
Yeah, I just wish I didn't sort of test out the new clutch on the green flag lap. I should have just forgotten about it. But anyway, I thought I had it in first, and it wasn't. It just came out or something. Anyway, fingers crossed. And
the most important question, are you still wearing your lucky pants?
Do you know what? I actually saved these from Friday. Yeah, so judging by that start, I don't think they're that lucky, so they might get in the bin after this, but we'll see.
Well, count to 10, calm down, and do it all again. Best of luck.
Cheers, mate.
Oversharing. Ed Foster just having a shocker getaway, and so often with old car gearboxes, and the minor is the same. Into second, it makes it easier to go into first. It just didn't sneak in first, and then the carnage in front of him sort of saved his bacon, because as he got away so slowly, suddenly 3 or 4 cars in front made contact with each other, and then everybody was into starburst formation trying to avoid the carnage.
But just looking at Ed, once he did get it going, you could just hear the carnage happening and the tyre squeal around him as he's going, right, I'm now finally going. And
watch Huffy from pole. Look, Huffy's level with Mark Cole until then suddenly he isn't, and that's where it goes into reverse as everybody else is accelerating hard in second and up to third. Huff's car is making all sorts of clattering noises, so he dropped right back. And then, yes, I'm afraid, smoke and bits of damaged car all over the place.
So first and fifth on the original grid no longer with us. We've lost Rob Huff from pole, number 7. We've lost Matt Walton, the 75 MGB, the white one with the black roof, from the outside of the second row. So everybody else effectively moves up the position.
We've also lost
car number 8 and car number 15.
Yeah, 15. I've now gone completely number blind. Can't even find William Tebbett. He was 28th on the grid. And car number 8 was a row ahead of him, Rupert Wood, so the dark blue car.
Well, Martin, it's often hardest when you're right at the back. Everybody else is adjusting as something happens ahead of you. The field concertinas, and your options become increasingly limited unless you simply stamp on the brakes, and then someone will probably hit you up the turn.
That's true. I mean, my grid positions normally when I used to race my Mini many decades ago is that they would normally have swept up the glass at the first corner by the time I got there. So, you know, I was fairly all right with that. Now, a couple of quick words of reassurance to Ed. Stick it in first this time, you plonker. That sort of reassurance.
Technical is best.
Yes, exactly. Well, you know, it's one of those things in life. I will never, ever, as long as I live, make that mistake again. And actually, you know, he gets a second bite of the cherry. So that's a great opportunity now, actually, to have a really strong race, because he's got the start, he's got everything ready, he's got the mistake under his belt.
So just hearing news that it will be a 15-minute race. The original one was 25 minutes. We can't run too far away from the timetable. That's still plenty of time for people to attack, maybe for Ed to defend. But for Mark Cole, suddenly things are looking a whole lot easier without Rob Huff. But bear in mind, that on qualifying pace, Ed Foster was very close to Mark, really battling at a level he's never battled before. But for Mark, he's just got to focus and get a second good start. He made the best of the first starts on the front row. Can he do it again?
Like so many drivers this weekend, Ed, Mark Cole remembering the late Simon Diffie and the late Henry Hope Frost. So with a Fever windscreen strip and a diff sticker on the car, Mark Cole leads the field away then. 1 formation lap, 15-minute race. And now with a slight failure to proceed from Paul Camfield's car. That again, Ed was talking about this last night. The problem with switching the car off is it's hot. and cold cars tend to start better than hot cars. Competition cars don't have a choke, not that you'd need one when it's hot, but they tend to be a bit tetchy about getting going again.
Well, for Paul Campfield, he was due to start 29th anyhow, so he's potentially lost one position by getting away dead last, and he will catch up to the tail of the field by the time they get back round to make their second attempt at a standing start.
Busy field of cars. Now then, that's the sort of technology that will keep running day and night, night and day for weeks on end, and it needs to. A thresher, so thresher and baler, and there aren't very many of those left. The reason was they were predominantly, the superstructure was made of wood, so driven by a steam engine, traction engine, which would have been the jack of all trades on many farms until, well, actually post-World War II with the introduction of the tractor, when suddenly tractors took over from steam engines. And yes, machines like that would have been towed around the countryside, going from farm to farm after the harvest, and helping to thresh and bale. And of course, the stalks, the straw, not only used around the circuit, but also for bedding. Somebody's having a great scratch there, aren't they? And the reason that, by the way, that pigs have shelters and cows and horses and so on don't tend to, is that pigs burn in the sun. Same as human beings. That's why when it's hot, they will be inside in the shade. Beautiful blue on 88. That's a great coloured car. Again, another Brown and Gammons entered car. Malcolm Gammons, son of Ron Gammons, racing that one. Good to see so many people still here enjoying the sunshine, enjoying the racing. Why would you leave while there's still track action at the Revival? Good to see so many people as well listening on their radios, on their earbuds that come free with your programme. If you haven't bought a programme, I can't suggest strongly enough that you do. They are an actual work of art. And all right, you might go, oh, it's not the cheapest thing I'll ever buy, but it is one of the best values for money. Plus, the radio comes with an off switch, which can be handy.
I have no idea where you're going with that one, Martin. Anyhow, it's great to see people walking around, and they've still got time to go to Over the Road after the last race. We've got this race, 2 more afterwards, and you don't want to leave the spectator banking when the St Mary's Trophy is
No,
on.
absolutely. So Freddie March, Spirit of Aviation, very busy as well. Lots of food and drink outlets down there, as I'm sure lots of you are aware. But we will turn our attention now back to the track. Mark Coles slowing the field down. What he doesn't want to do is tear around on the formation lap and then sit for 5 minutes as all his gauges start to go off the clock. He and Ed Foster, the front row men. Behind them, the white car, the white car with the black roof of Nick Mayton. Then the pale blue cars of Josh Barnett. That's the one with the white roof, and the slightly more pale blue of Jason Minshaw, the car with the red, white and blue stripes up the bonnet.
If we just talk about Josh Barnett, he had an off at Madrick in official practice. The front end was really quite ding, but it was only the bodywork. He went faster after that and qualified very well indeed. And
now,
his car sounds that bit different as well.
I think we've lost Chris Ryan as well in the MGB Le Mans. There should be a red and white car between those 2 blue cars, and he is not there. So I think we have lost Chris Ryan. I didn't see particularly where we lost him, which is careless.
Oh, I feel you're right.
But I think that's going to be another gap sur la grille de départ. So we got 1 missing from pole position, Rob Huff. We've got 1 missing from row 2, Matt Walton. Oh no, hang on a minute, he's there in the middle. So we've got Josh Barnett and Jason Minshaw in the blue cars, and there is a car in between them which is red and white, so that'll be Chris Ryan. With the green highlights behind them, you can see Max Cawthorne, the bright blue car, really fetching car number 88, Malcolm Gammons, and then Paul Wilmer, Mark Ashworth, Gordon Russell and the rest. 5 seconds countdown. Okay, cars in gear and away we go. Very good start indeed. Very quick turnaround from the man with the flag, and Ed Foster was absolutely not caught out the second time. Mark Coles slightly inside him, and Ed Foster will tuck in behind him, but the white car right behind, and that is going to be
Nick Mayton making his move. They're absolutely in grid order at the moment, but it looks so Ed Foster had got his nose in front. Well, he did for about the first 20 yards, but then Mark Cole hooked it up. They're trying to go 2 abreast further back with Josh Barnett on the outside, the pale blue car with the white roof, through Ford Water side by side. That's how they should be going.
Jason Minshaw with the blue car with the red, white and blue. Then the very bright blue number 88, that's Malcolm Gammons, and on the inside of him is the red and white car of Chris Ryan. Oh, big moment! Gathers it all up, Josh Barnett.
He's already had his moments in practice.
Doesn't gather it all up. That was a big moment, and that's going to split the field there because he is fishtailing all over the place. Mark Cole leads, Ed Foster in second, Nick Maton third.
Yeah, it was a battle for fourth and fifth positions, and Josh Barnett got wrong, and a lot of other drivers behind him thought, no, you're pushing me to the outside going to St Mary's, but that first three have got away as they were the first three on the grid. It's Cole, it's Foster, and it's Maton, and Foster's doing well to stay up. With Cole. Cole's going to be very fast. All those years of experience, he's going to be great on tyres that have lost their temperature and ready to attack right now. But look, riding on board with the big man with 6'7" Ed Foster down into the first part of Lavant, adjusting all the time. He wants to put the pad and he's got to wait. He's working hard for his keep down there.
Yeah, he really is. Checks the mirror, quick flick of the mirrors, then down into second gear, hook second. He's going to run out to revs pretty quickly if he gets it over the curbs. Snatching third, Mark Cole is the race leader. Ed Foster comes across the line in second place. Third place is Nick Maton, the old English white car with the black roof and black numbers. Here comes the Gammons car around the outside, the dark blue car, Malcolm Gammons. This is for fourth place, trying to get by Jason Minshaw, two scions of famous racing British families. And the battle remains on. The dark blue car did not get by the pale blue car. The next pale blue car with the white roof, that's Josh Barnett.
Josh got it wrong out at St Mary's. You can see Malcolm Gammons' car has got the scars of war. That was from the first part of the race. That front left wing crimped just above the wheel. Probably won't help him a great deal, but what these two cars need as a tow road to get them onto that lead battle. And now Cole and Foster are just starting to drop Maton. First and second are making their escape. Here they turn left at St Mary's, up over the rise, into the dip, and then Lavant is the corner that comes next.
I'm not sure what's going to make Ed's life more embarrassing at the end of the day, if he finishes on the podium or if he doesn't. Either way, it's been a sparkling race so far. Great action for fourth place, Minshaw, and Gammons in more trouble behind.
Okay, by my reckoning, that's an all red car. That could be Gordon Russell if it's number 67.
Gordon Russell, 67. I don't know who was involved with him. Where was he? He was 13th.
Yeah, he started 12th, 13th, there or thereabouts. Russell Wilts would have been in there as well, but great evasive action, because often you don't have a choice to really move your car around much. But look, first three getting away. Let's take a look at the replay. What went wrong?
The
dive up the inside into St Mary's, and the innocent party was certainly car number 67. Really bad luck.
And the dive was
Russell.
from Chris Helliwell. That will be #inappropriate lunge. He will be appearing on the driver's briefing video for the 2023 Jubilee version of the Revival. Meanwhile, our top two are breaking away. So Mark Cole, 6/10 at the line ahead of Ed Foster. Well, hang on a minute, that's a big gap back to Maton. That's growing all the time.
It really is, and I tell you what,
Maton's got a problem, hasn't he?
No, not really. I think he's a second or so further back. But what's happened is that Ed's now lapped faster than he's managed in qualifying. So on his first pucker flying lap, he's now stopped blinking. He won't blink for the remaining 11 minutes this race. He's got his focus on Mark Cole up ahead. Great to see that number 29 is still going, Neil Cawthorne, because he was really caught in all the stuff of that first start and somehow escaped.
Would the blue cars change position? So through goes the pale blue car with the white roof, and that's Josh Barnett going past Jason Minshaw. So Jason Minshaw passed by Malcolm Gammons, and now by Josh Barnett as well. So the car with the red and white stripes, 55, starting to go backwards and under pressure. You can probably see why. Looks to be a bit more wayward. I wonder if his tyre pressures were just a little high at the beginning, or maybe even far too low at the beginning. Either way, he seems to be drifting a lot more than his rivals.
He does, and Max Cawthorne, sorry I called him Neil earlier. Neil was the car's entrance. Looks like he's going to make a move down into Wood to gain a position. Right, the second half of the lap's been a little better for the race leader, Mark Cole, opening up the gap. It was 0.67 of a second on the start-finish line last time around, but Ed is really trying his utmost to hang, and needs to be faster laps than the one before. What's the gap going to be? Out to a second, let's see. Just waiting for the interval to come on the screen. It's 1.032 seconds, but they're in the 1:35s. That's faster than Ed has ever been in race trim here, but the first three well clear.
Ed Foster fastest in sector 1, Mark Cole fastest in sector 2 and 3, and Ed actually with the top speed on the run down through Ford Water, which is the fastest part of the track for these cars. So he's not being dropped by much, and actually again in the first part of the lap you can see he is definitely closing up on the leader. That gap is not a second, that gap is not half a second.
Right, these next 10 minutes, in fact 9 minutes and a half are remaining, and these are going to go by in a flash for this duo. You'd have to presume our race leader Mark Cole is a little bit more calm. Ed Foster in uncharted territory, but he hasn't got time to think about that. He's attacking into Lavant, not close enough to make a lunge.
Now, no yellow flags there. There is a car a long way off on the right-hand side, but it is a long way off now. Again, Ed just a little bit more oversteer maybe there than he wanted in Lavant. Mark Cole's car just looks a little more balanced, and maybe that's why Cole is quicker in sector 2. Cole is not as quick though on this lap as he was on the last, but Ed is faster. Ed is the fastest in sector 1 on this lap. That's why the gap closed down, and Ed is really pushing hard. Honestly, I have no idea what's going through his head right now. He's a keen amateur racer. Mark Cole has been around the block a lot of times, but Ed's sitting there going, how am I going to get by? What am I going to do if I do? What happens if I get by him?
Yeah, but I think what he's thinking is I've got to get rid of that oversteer at Lavant, because he can't get the power down soon enough, and that costs him the whole way down the Lavant straight. He won't be able to attack into Woodland, so he's got to regroup, regather. Great battling in behind. Nick Maton's still safe in second place, but then comes the gaggle, and Malcolm Gammons at the front of that. He's now moving away from Josh Barnett in fourth.
75 there with the orange around the grille. That's Matt Walton. He wasn't on the grid, so he started from the pit lane, Matt Walton. He is right up to
just outside the top
place.
10.
No, this is the battle for 12th. So the car he's chasing, car number 49, the red and white car.
He's 12th.
He is 12th. And that is Simon Milner, who started in 14th place, 15th place. So Simon's moved up a couple of spots because of the holes in the grid. But look at the car that started from the pit lane. Well, they've managed to lever that bodywork off the tyre. Won't have had time to put a new tyre on it. But never mind. Attack, attack, attack.
That's all he could do. Fabulous run. I looked down to see if he was on the back of the grid. He wasn't. I couldn't see into the pit lane, but he's been blasting out from there ever since. He's now got to, it'll probably take more than a lap to catch the next car, but the intent is clearly there. What an attack. The next target is car number 49, driver Simon Milner, who was also sort of slightly in the wars in that first start.
No, I think that's the car he's just gone by. So there's that. I think that was 49, Simon Milner in the background. So who's the red car with yellow highlights? Now I'm going to have to look down my list and find him. So there's 38. So that was...
It's probably...
so that's Paul Latimer.
No, it could be.
So, but that's behind, so the battle is on behind him.
Right at the very, very sharp end of the field. It's still Cole from Foster. They come round another time. It was 1.1 seconds last time around at this lap, 1.3. They're both going faster than they were before, but fastest lap of the race now to Mark Cole. And they've really, really dropped Nick Maton, who's in a race of his own. Malcolm Gammons comes across in fourth place, and Josh Barnett, who had his own moment, back on track and going really fast. Two into the chicane. Does it work?
Kind of does.
Coming up to the chicane, I went a little bit early there. Car number 4 thinks he might have a go as well.
Yeah, that's Jeremy Cottingham in the blue car with the pale blue numbers and pale blue roof, and he's got a really good run through the chicane. The two red and white cars really held each other up. This is Cottingham coming down the inside, and this is going to be the pass for 14th if he can make it. Right in front of him is Noel Leonard, car number 175, but Cottingham cannot get through there. So Leonard being dive bombed on the inside. Through goes Paul Latimer, and Leonard has to drift out a little wider than he would like, and Latimer offline still manages to square it up for the chicane, and he is away and gone.
Well, that's very impressive. He started the first race back in 23rd position. Of course, a few of the apples fell from the tree in front of him, but he's really gained at least 5 or 6 positions on this restart. So great drive from Paul Latimer, the red car with the white roof, but the stripes on the top, just to give us a helping hand in the commentary booth. Car number 38.
Yeah, looks like he's now catching the car with all those white highlights, which is Simon Milner. Now, what about the battle of the blues? It is still Malcolm Gammons, the dark blue car, ahead, and that's 88 ahead of number 90. That's Josh Barnett. That's the all-pale blue car. And that is the battle for 4th place. Max Cawthorne, the red and white car with the green corners, if you know what I mean, below where the bumper would normally be. He's now dropped out of contention there. And in fact, he's been passed by Josh Barnett. So Gammons and Barnett. Cawthorne has got Minshaw not too far behind him. Jason Minshaw. Jason Minshaw's car, I think, was also maybe a slight victim of the opening lap Farrago.
Well, could well have been.
Seemed to be as quick as it was in practice at all.
Well, he was the first pinch point starting 8. He did make that brilliant start, but who knows what happened. But up front, Mark Cole is now starting to just put the pressure on. Another fastest lap of the race. He's 1.7 seconds clear of our pal, the man who's normally doing the post-race interviews, Ed Foster, but he's well clear. He's 5 seconds and more clear of the third place car, Nick Maton. So it looks like the top three are fairly sort of just under, well, gosh, it's only just over 4 minutes remaining.
Yeah. I'll retract instantly what I said about Jason Minshaw. Jason Minshaw qualified with a 1:38.4. His fastest race lap has been a 1:37.1. So the car is at least as quick as he was. His fastest race lap has been 1:36. His current race lap, last race lap, was a 1:37. So Minshaw, in race form, has been going 2 seconds quicker than he did in practice. Number 8 with damage on the front. That was another car, Rupert Wood's car, that we thought may not restart. Clearly it has. Whoa! Ed with a big handful out of the chicane. And again, you know, they're still working on setting this car up, getting the tyre pressures right, getting the gear shift right, and getting everything a little bit better sorted out. And it does look like it's just got a little bit more oversteer in the slow and medium speed stuff.
It's getting worse as well.
In sector 1.
It's definitely getting worse, that handling for Ed Foster. He's 2.1 seconds in arrears, and the area he's losing the most that time in 2:17 is the last of the 3 sectors of the lap. It's going through Woodcote and then that stretch through the chicane. Obviously, if your car's getting a little bit loose... Oh, he's flashed into the lead. The problem for Mark Cole, there was a flash of yellow going from screen left to screen right. So Ed Foster is in uncharted territory.
Oh, my goodness. You can't write this nonsense. Mark Cole, like Rob Huff, 2 of the 3 front row starters. Cole's got the door open. It's not because he thinks he's seen the checkered flag. He has got a major issue now. He will pull over on the right-hand side, possibly here, just to stay out of the way.
Can't see any smoke. Look, leading seemingly happily. That gap was 2 seconds on the line. It's down to about 1 second as we see it in the shot. And going through, I think it was Ford Water, suddenly, block, flat. There is no speed at all. And then the door opened because clearly something unpleasant is leaking into the cockpit in terms of smell.
Now, I wonder again whether he's maybe lost the clutch or lost a gear, or maybe, like Rob Huff, lost a cylinder. Has a valve burned, and is it just clattering away? We can't hear, but we are riding on board. I can't believe I'm saying this, with 2 minutes 22 seconds to go. So this lap plus 2 more with Ed Foster.
And he's got a 5-second lead, maybe slightly more. So focus, focus, focus. The man who thought it had all gone wrong at the first start when he tried to start with the car not in the gear. He thought, in fact, in no gear at all. But look, surely that's stretching over Nick Maton and then Malcolm Gammons, who I think is now starting to close in. Yes, he is. He's getting closer and closer. And in fact, he's got Josh Barnett on his tail. 3 very quick drivers.
You know, this is also going. Oh, look, Gammons' bonnet is starting to pop up. So this is actually going to help Ed Foster, because if these 3 engage in battle, they will slow each other up. You can see the tape on the front of car number 90. That's holding it all together from yesterday. Luckily, they've got one of the leather bonnet straps on 88. Otherwise, Malcolm Gammons would have been completely blinded by now with no clue where he's going, because that bonnet would have flown up long ago.
I actually think Josh Barnett at the back of this pack may have a chance, but Malcolm Gammons is really, really fighting so hard. It must be distracting, but also the sheer fear that will break, so he's pushing on super hard. How's Ed going in terms of his sector times? Well, he's doing what he must do. He does not back off. He has to attack.
Exactly. He can't go right to the ragged edge, but he certainly can't stick it into top gear TED mode and just stroke it home. He has got to keep his rhythm, and that's so important when you're an occasional racer, when you get into the zone where you're not actively thinking about what you're doing and things are just happening naturally. That's where he needs to stay. Now, he had that big shot when Mark Cole basically suddenly stopped almost dead in front of him, and he swept round him. Luckily, just before he could, just in time to change the line and survive Ford Water, otherwise they could both have gone off.
So really close. Maton, Gammons and Barnett in 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Ed Foster going to be more than 6 seconds clear. He is already, but now starting what is the last lap of his racing career, because this is for win. He's got to retire with a win under his belt, but this will only fire him up. He'll be fantastic to hear from in the collection area after the race. David Green will speak to him surely half a lap. What's that noise, Ed? What's that noise?
There's Ed Foster, but the battle for 2nd place is going to be a cracker. Nick Maton, Malcolm Gammons and Josh Burnett. 2 of these are going to get a garland, 1 is not, and Gammons is going for it. He's going to try and go the long way around the outside of Ford Water. Blimey, he's got some speed there, and he's not quite sure he can cut in, and he's right not to be quite sure. Nick Maton is still there, now he's got through, so Gammons is up to 2nd, Maton in 3rd, and Josh Barnett at the back is now looking to try and find a way past as well.
Bear in mind, Josh Barnett had a run across the grass there earlier in the race in St Mary's, and yet he's still fighting. I think he's got the potential to go past. He just needs a little more scrapping between Gammons, who's just too far in front of Maton. Are they all going to get through the first part of St Mary's on the black stuff? So far, so good. No order change.
I think he's got the speed, but look, he's running wire wheels. And he's down in 4th. There's no chance Ed is going to be able to change to wires after this. Ed Foster leading on the final lap by 6 seconds. Well, this almost turned from a front row start into an utter unmitigated disaster as he blew the start of the first race. His bacon was saved, and he has not made the same mistake in the second. He made an electrifying getaway, and luck has ridden in car number 217. This family MG, he's racing. His dad owned before him and raced it before him.
Yes! Yes!
G&T on the door, by the way, is the winner's drink order.
Yes! Yes!
Unexpurgated joy.
Oh my God! Yes! 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 Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
No words.
Jesus!
That's it, we can finish Goodwood now. You will not see a happier winner anywhere. Well, now, on his phone, I don't know if he's put it up on social media, Ed has got on board of him at the end of testing finally getting below the target time he was set at 1 minute 37.0. He got down into the 36s, and that was his reaction. At no, honest to God, at no stage did Ed come here even remotely dreaming that he would be A, competitive in a field that is this well rehearsed in machinery that's basically identical to his, B, put it on the front row, and even this morning I don't think even remotely in his head was he thinking, what's going to happen when I win this?
No, because Ed is unbelievably modest, and he said, well, you know, I've sort of had my moment, as we said before the race. Take a photo, get me on the front row of the grid. If I go backwards, I go backwards, and I have sort of almost fraudulently got on the front row.
Right.
Over modest, because he drove beautifully there. Of course, with Rob Huff retiring from pole and Mark Cole, with whom he was having a really good scrap, having that problem late in the race. The victory has come his way, but he's grabbing that with both hands. Has he already texted you?
No. I'm going to. Yeah, he hasn't. No, I'm going to read you a WhatsApp conversation we had earlier, because Andrew Hibbert, after being interviewed by Ed, then stuck the boot in, saying, "Well, you know, you might be here interviewing yourself later on today because you've got that Lavant Cup race, haven't you?" So I said, "Everybody's sticking the boot in." Classic stuff from Andrew Hibbert. His reply, Ed's reply, "I'm looking forward to go back to being an amateur reporter." I said, "You'd better not win then." "Not a worry," says Ed. "You never can tell." No, you can. Ed Foster. Well, I mean, what a great family connection. His late father, he now runs the family farm. He was a full-time employee here, a big part of the motorsports content team here at Goodwood for a number of years. He's still fully involved and invested in everything that happens here, and the most humble and happy guy I think you'll ever see on the planet. You can absolutely stop the count now. We have found our lottery winner.
He looks a bit like the mad drummer on the Muppet Show there as he's banging in the wheels on the start of his straight. He traditionally edits the Goodwood yearbook. I wonder what's going to be on the front cover, but no, Ed would be so modest, there'll be no photo, or maybe on the inside back.
There'll be no mention, not certainly from him, but Ed Foster, you star. Sometimes the stars align. His father's car, he's raced and won at Goodwood. Now that probably means more than if he'd won in his Dan Gurney Impala. That is family history. His fiancée is here for the first time this weekend, was telling us all about the lucky pants. Ed just gave her that old-fashioned look, going, what lucky pants? Well, he's kept them from Friday. They might be rubbish, Ed. They are guaranteed lucky pants right now.
There is Lisa. I think she is the lucky charm, quite clearly.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's hard to argue. It is hard to argue. In the background, Malcolm Gammons, who finished in a fine second place. Nick Maton's car in third. A cigar. Now, he has stood and watched countless people. Just yeah, that's a £200 worth of damage. He stood and watched countless people take a cigar and interviewed them. And he said it's the best job in the world because everyone is happy. Everyone is happy. David Green, just remember that. Everyone is happy.
Rob Huff knew all along.
Congratulations. Even in your wildest dreams, you mustn't imagine this.
I wasn't looking good after the first start, I have to say. And I was keeping with Mark, which I was quite surprised about. And I was quicker through Madrick and down the back straight through Ford Water, but I could just never get close enough. There was no way I was going to do a move. And then suddenly started slowing, and I was like, oh my God, there's yellows. Where are the yellows? I was like, there aren't any yellows. Oh my God, I'm past. And I genuinely can't believe this. As I turned down here, I was like, this is a dream. This is a very cruel dream. But you know what? I've got to thank Nick Padmore, Roy Gillingham. They've been absolutely amazing. Same as the guys at AJ Barnard, Nick Swift, who's had lots of late nights and hates me. Hopefully he hates me a little bit less now. But without those guys, and my fiancée Lisa, I mean, heroes, all of them.
Well, you say you enjoy this job, interviewing people at the front, because they're always happy. Of course, I'm getting the pleasure to congratulate you here. It's absolutely fantastic. 0 to hero after that first lap.
God, I had a lot of recovery to do, but I'm genuinely speechless. Genuinely speechless. That is the most amazing thing.
And of course, a family car there. Lots of emotions around it.
Yeah, I do. On the cool down lap, I said, "This is for you, Dad." Yeah. He bought the car and we all raced it together. Yeah.
I'll leave you to that thought, Ed. Absolutely fantastic. I and the rest of the team here, and probably the rest of Goodwood, couldn't be happier for you. Well done.
Thanks.
Thank you, thank you, everybody. It is a huge emotional moment for Ed and the family. You saw Nick Swift there, one of the first to congratulate him. He's been doing a lot of work on that engine as well. So, yeah, fantastic stuff. Good guys never win, do they? Yeah, not much. Not much, Ed Foster, not much.
Well done, Ed.
Well, I'm here with Malcolm Gammon. That's a tough act to follow, but you seem to really enjoy that. You were flying through the field at the end.
Yeah, it was beautiful. We got the car, we had to fit a different engine last night. We went all the way back to work. My team was fantastic, and the car wasn't what it was yesterday, but yeah, it was fantastic fun. It was absolutely brilliant. So yeah, thank you to Goodwood. What an awesome place.
Were you a bit worried about that bonnet moving up at the end there?
It was a bit of an air brake, but hey, I'm second. I've got all the. It's like winning the lottery.
Well, it's lovely to see you. Love you so happy you got your cigar, your garland. Enjoy your podium.
Thank you very much.